Welcome to the LCS postgame lobby. I am Dan Doricos here with Martin Fischer-Lunga and Alish Freeze-Konditionek. Now, we are going to be joined by Fnatic jungler Broxah in just a moment.
He's taking his time.
He is. We got to get him mic'd up. We got to get him ready. But first, we do want to, welcome Freeze. Welcome to Fischer. Fischer, you just cast all day. So talk to me a little bit. How you feeling? You got a little loopy there at the end with your Morgana rules for point system.
Technically worked. I said 5 in a row, and you will never hit number 6, and he actually missed number 6.
There you go.
So that was probably the best prediction I've ever made. Pretty proud about that one. I then also predicted...
You predicted H2K would beat G2.
That was also really good. Okay, I got two really good ones today. That was, yeah.
What's wrong with you?
All right. You're crazy, man. All right.
I got the first 2 games wrong, though.
You did. Horribly wrong. I do want to talk a little bit about the last game, though. It does feel like Fnatic just continue to prove themselves to be kind of this dominant force in the EU LCS. We'll hear more from Broxah on his perspective. But Freeze, you called them the best team in Europe. I know you were. It didn't feel 100% certain in your heart with how well Splice were performing. Yeah. But you still feel that's the case? You feel like they're just further confirming it here?
Just seeing Splice, how they played today, I got a little scared for calling out Fnatic as the best one, but just seeing Fnatic, how well they managed to stomp the early game and how well they, like we saw Reckless that he said, oh, we didn't snowball the lead as much as we wanted, but I mean, they did, I haven't seen Reckless being so aggressive and so performing well on an aggressive AD carry before, because as he mentioned, he played late game carries. So it was amazing to see them stomping the bot lane. They were like 50 CS ahead in 10 minutes, and Hilly was hitting every Q almost, like the first 5. Okay.
Yeah, the first 5. I wonder if you, like, when you saw the blind Morgana, were you like, oh, no, the problem, they're gonna win every lane, or because I was like, oh, I feel like Janna and these kind of picks normally do pretty well against.
Yeah, Janna should totally win in the lane, but yeah, Hilly is a god.
I guess if you get hit by every binding, you lose. So.
I can say Hill is a god. Look, I've got hit by a few bindings too, here and there,
Okay, he hits all the bindings.
I mean, it's good to see. I like that Hill is getting back to his roots a little bit. I like that he's taking the risk because we saw Morgana earlier, and it was a little rough. I feel like when we see this pick sometimes, because like when you're winning, it looks like this OP insane champion. When you're losing, I mean, you black shield yourself and you just die because they're unconcerned. Like, we don't need CC to kill you. We're just gonna run you down. Yeah.
So of course it's a really good pick if you are
a god.
A sniper, a god, all that kind of stuff. And it was a super fun draft in the way that once it got ahead, I feel like stopping that draft from getting Baron is almost impossible, because they have like 5 times, chain CC combos they can do.
I mean, there's a perma-stealth Kha'Zix in the jungle too, who's
also
literally got enough bushes to run through that he stays invisible 100% of the time.
So not only do they have all the wards around it and they have Cho'Gath feast to secure the Baron, they didn't have 5 traps lined up where you're going to enter the Baron pit. And then when you are entering the Baron pit and finally get past the traps, there is a Morgana binding flying from the wall that you most likely don't see because he's on a control ward. That's also going to hit you. And
another trap?
And then another trap comes down, and like, it's just so hard once you fall behind to that draft, which you mainly will do if you lose the bottom lane in this case, and then follow up by Galio ult maybe coming down to further snowball it. It just feels like you can't stop them from getting Baron.
All right, well, let's take a chance now to look at the impact that they had on the race for playoffs. Of course, Fnatic with a 2-win lead over the rest of the composition, 11-4 to 9-6. I mean, clear standout for first place at this point.
Definitely well-deserved. I want to highlight that in EULCS, we are so nice to all our teams that everyone is officially top 6 in the EULCS.
Look, this is a good... This is the best and worst time of year to be an analyst.
This is the most wholesome standings ever, though.
Well, yeah, it's true. It's super whole. This is the participation trophy of standings, dude. I mean, everyone is in 6th place, but I feel like it's the best time to be an analyst and the worst time. It's the best time because, anyone can take it. It's exciting, but also... You could be wrong at any moment.
But no one's going to flame you for not knowing who's going to make playoffs, right? Who do you think's going to make?
No, you first.
Okay, see? What does Broxah say? Oh, he doesn't say a lot. Okay. I tried to make a joke.
You trying to make a joke? Broxah, get in here, dude. You're chilling. You're waiting on the outside.
Hey,
I think we might have been waiting for some kind of cue, but just get in here. We missed you dearly while you were getting mic'd up. So, Broxah, talk to me about this 11-4. We heard from your teammates. It feels pretty good to know you're at the top of the standings. How do you feel?
Well, I don't mind. That's
hello, everyone.
I think in the beginning it was a bit up and down, but recently we've been doing pretty well. We've been having more solid games. There's been some rough early games and all, but yeah, the late games have gone better.
Yeah, yeah. To be fair, the rough early games, you guys also drafted like.
Yeah, I also think it's both good and bad that we had all those struggles, because obviously this week it was a big thing for us to work on, and I think that showed today as well. For once we did fall behind in the early game, we actually got really far ahead. Yeah. So yeah, coming into playoffs, I think it's gonna help us.
Yeah, now I'm curious for you. You're a player that we've seen. I mean, when you came into the league, you're on the Lee Sin all the time. Then you played tanks. You were on like Gragas duty for an entire season, and now you're back on the Kha'Zix. Can we talk a little bit like how do you feel about like transitioning roles so much as a player during your time on Fnatic? Because I mean, Kha'Zix looks pretty good today. I mean, admittedly, it was a lot of assists, less kills than I would have preferred. Also, you baited me with the Kayn hover, which I'm less than excited about because I would have preferred the Kayn. But talk to me about your role in Fnatic. How do you feel about it?
Well, my role has changed a lot since I joined. In the beginning, it was just about me fitting in. I just had to fit in and be whatever we needed, and I think that also impacted me a bit at the start of Summer Split, because I didn't really do my own thing. Like, since the beginning, I had just been on the team to fit in and be whatever the team needed me to be in order for us to succeed. And then later on, I got a bit more freedom, slowly started getting more freedom. But sadly enough for me, that was on tank duty at that time. If I had the freedom on Elise Lee Sin, it would be more exciting, but not much I can do about that. So
that's absolutely fair. Now, Broxah, we've had a lot of people come on the post-game lobby and make playoff predictions. Deficio talked about it. There's a participation trophy award series of teams in 6th place. Everyone in EULCS is top 6. So I wanted to ask you about your playoff predictions. So far, we talked to you. You've been able to lock in your top 5. Yeah. Let's take a look at them. There is a 6th place that is missing, but let's start with the ones we know. We'll get to the 6th place, what we're now calling the participation trophy. I don't know how I feel about that one, but it does flow off the tongue nicely. So let's talk about how this actually went down. We'll start with Fnatic. So Fnatic, clear first for you guys. No doubt in your mind that anyone's going to contest you at this point.
I think after today we should be able to secure the 1st place. I think a lot of things has to go wrong in the last games, especially because we're playing some of the lower ranked teams. So I think we are locking in the 1st seed after today.
Agree. Can't really argue against it.
It's hard. It's kind of just you guys are winning, you're number 1, and you have an easy schedule. So
yeah.
I feel like
I mean, they're only playing against top 6 teams, which
they still have the late game, guys.
They got the late game. They got the early game as well now. Listen, Fnatic's gonna get number 1. I think we're gonna lock that in. It will not change.
Okay, but number 2 is actually interesting to me, because before today, I would have been willing to be like, all right, G2's looking good, but Splice are looking better today. Oh, yeah. And G2 just lost to H2K after kind of failing to execute a very early game draft. Now, it happens to the best of us, right? Or the best of the teams. Definitely not to me. I will not execute anything. But why in G2 number 2? Why so much faith in them still, despite the losses today?
I think even though they lost today, they're still the strongest team. They have a lot of experience. They have a really strong... Usually they have a really strong early game. We showed today, like, they were extremely strong early game, but then they just got outscaled. And I think if they can draft a bit better comp that also has some scaling, then they're usually doing really, really well. And yeah, like, it's difficult for me when it comes to G2 Splice. I think they're really close. It's more or less the same team, but G2 just has that much more experience, which gives them a good edge. And then when it comes to Vitality Misfits, they're just having a lot of ups and downs. Like, Vitality came in really strong, and now they've lost a lot of games. Misfits are just really up and down. Like, one day they're doing really great, the next day they're getting stomped. So it's just really, really hard to judge. And I think overall G2 Splicers looks more stable, with G2 having more experience and therefore having better chances.
And Misfits is an interesting one to me, right? Because they don't quite have the win buffer that a lot of other teams on this list have, Vitality G2 Splice especially. So I'm curious, Freeze, we watched their game today. What are your impressions of Misfits right now? How do you see them as far as playoff contenders go?
Well, for me, Misfits, they're just trying to pick composition that are so hard to execute instead of just getting for the easy wins, you know? You could just get something that is way easier to play, way safer as well, and has less risk involved and more reward. but they still believe that they're the best macro team and they can play something that is super hard to execute.
Okay, I'm curious though, because you said easier to play, like better. Isn't that just a better draft? Like, are you just saying that their drafting is poor, or is this just still that kind of concept of being over married to the perfect game?
Yeah, I think it's just being, as you said, married to the perfect game. Can't really play perfectly all the time.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing. Deficio, you as well. Misfits, Vitality. Who stands out the most to you on this top 5 list? Is there anything odd to you here?
G2 second.
Are you lost faith?
Yeah, I mean, I lost it last week when I said Splice would get second place.
Oh, that's true.
And
Yeah.
not G2. So I'm feeling very happy about that prediction. I'm not feeling happy because G2 is losing, but just based on the prediction itself. Here's another reason for me to be concerned about G2 is, first of all, I realized once GP fell out of meta, it's been a lot harder for G2 to pick up wins, because GP was a pick where they would get early goal leads through top lane, because Wonder would never lose lane, would actually win CS in Klepto, and then he would have insane scaling on the GP, so he could always be a carry in the late game. That's gone. Wonder's not had the same impact ever since. Second thing is, last time they had a game where they stomped early game, failed to close the game, and lost to a better late game comp, was against Fnatic. And immediately after, they collapsed and said, oh, we cannot play early game anymore. We have to pick late game now. That's the style for us to play. They did that for all of last week. Should have gone 0-2 that week, because if they don't get ahead early, they don't actually look that great. They just rely on perks then for late game damage and not Yanin, and Wonder is on the tank in this meta. So I am very concerned regarding how G2 wants to now play tomorrow and next week. I don't think after GP has been removed, the team look as strong. And that's why I think they're actually going to drop down to at least third place.
I want to chase this a little bit, because you seem very down on G2. Third place is where you think they're going to end, or do you think they could go down to fourth?
They could.
I think they could even go down.
They could go further down. They could go further down. I forgot the remaining schedule. I know tomorrow they have Schalke, which they should still be favorites in. But next week, I don't remember if they actually play any of the teams around them in the standings here. But I think I'm going to give them third place for now, and then Splice second, Vitality fourth.
I mean, I love it. But now, I think comes the time, as this is Broxah's playoff prediction.
Yeah.
We'll get back to Broxah. Not that I'm not loving the G2 angle here, but number 6, Broxah. You gotta pick, man. I know it's hard. I know there's a lot of teams remaining. I know there's a lot of ties. And we can present some. I mean, if you're uncertain, we can run through them. We can talk about them all a little bit, and I think we should. But is there anyone in the mess of 6th place teams that is EU LCS right now that stands out to you?
It's so hard to say for me, especially because all teams have so many ups and downs. Like, not only the top teams, but also the bottom ones. Like, one week, one team can be playing amazingly, and the next week they do really poorly. So it's just so much ups and downs. But I think 2 teams stand out to me, and that's Unicorns and H2K.
Yep.
God. From 1-8
I agree.
to top contenders for playoff spot.
They
I mean,
got
number
the
6,
momentum.
but still.
Top contender among
Top
those
contender
five.
for number 6. It's huge for me, at least.
Yeah.
From 1-8, from bottom of the league, not winning anything, guys.
I agree with Broxah. They stand out a bit more. I think I originally said Unicorns, but I want to change that after today, because I think Unicorns' schedule is insane. They play you guys tomorrow. They have Misfits as well, and they have Splice, I think it is, in the last week of Vitality, one of the 2. So it's a really tough schedule they got remaining. I think H2K will now make playoff after beating G2 today. They will beat Rocket, which they will have next week.
Okay.
And they're going to take at least one more win in that schedule, which is going to be enough to give them number 6. And listen, Sheriff, second half of the split, that man is showing up in these late game fights, and I like it.
Freeze, you've talked a lot about Sheriff. I know you talk about like the Czech relationship that you guys have, but do you have any special insight? Do you think this guy is, like, even as a young player, ready to be playing in playoffs?
Well, once I talked with Sheriff a bit in the first few weeks, he felt very uncomfortable. He was very shy, and he wasn't himself. You know, he's this happy guy that always strolls around, makes funny stuff, and then he's very, he believes in himself. And then I didn't see that in the beginning of the week. And then he got selfie, he got shook, and I started seeing the old Sheriff I know, and he started stepping up big time. And if he gets the late game with his hyper carry picks, damn, he does a lot
You
of
mean, he
damage.
does look good, man. I'm not going to lie. There's been some pretty clutch. I mean, he beat Fnatic on a Vayne pick. He did.
Yeah.
The dark times of Fnatic at the start of split, but now you could only be losing to a playoff contender, and I think that would be fair. But Broxah, Unicorns of Love or H2K, man. I mean, we got to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
Unicorns of Love, good team, but strength of schedule seems very terrifying. H2K, also good team, easier schedule.
What do you like about H2K?
I mean, I think Sheriff is a big reason that H2K are really good. I also think their early game was a bit up and down at the beginning of the split. And then when Shook came in, there was this kind of honeymoon effect. And then everything just went really well for them. The addition of Selfie has helped a ton as well. Might also be one of the big reasons. And I think they just look pretty good at pretty much all phases of the game. Obviously, early game today didn't.
Yeah, I'd say early game was a bit shaky.
They lost
still,
every lane because of the comps as well, the draft.
A big thing is that they have really, really good carries, so they always have someone to rely on later in the game, even if things go wrong. Like Sheriff and Selfie can really step up and secure them some wins.
Then here's my question. Who has better carries, Unicorns of Love or H2K?
H2K, 100%.
H2K.
Exile and Samix outclassed by the rookie Sheriff and Selfie.
For me, Exile and Samus are getting caught too much, way too much. They're not so consistent, and then if that matters in late game a lot. So
I think Samix in late game fights have been doing well. Agree, there's been some times where he would get caught out, but he had a few weeks here where he had some really good fights. But his early laning phase is a bit of an issue. It was definitely an issue today as well. And Exile is the thing is, when you say Exile is great, the next game he goes 0-10. And when you say he's bad, then he goes 10-0. So it's really hard to rely on him consistently. And again, with the tough schedule they do have, they can't afford carries who could be up and down or inconsistent, as Broxah also highlighted with these teams. I think H2K, they just have a more stable base they can rely on.
All right, sounds like you guys have your mind made up. Broxah, before I ask you for final decision, I want to remind we also have Schalke, we have Roccat, we have Giants. Someone just told me in my ear because they're concerned that my slow speaking was me buying time to figure out what the remaining teams were. I remembered production. Anyway, so there's 3 other teams. We haven't talked about them all. Is there any one of them that could surprise us in the next few weeks, or is it really just the race between Unicorns of Love and H2K?
Like Schalke looked pretty good today, but then they have so much. Yeah, they have so much on stakes as well, and I don't know how they will play under just so much pressure. Yeah,
I think Schalke is going to lose to G2 and Fnatic. So it's not even about them not being good enough to make it. It's just, I think they've kind of, their schedule is not in their favor, and they lost too many close games early in the split. So the safe prediction for me is they're not going to make it. I think Roccat as an outsider to make it in. I know today was rough, but
yeah, I think Roccat is pretty good as well. Like normally they seem really strong, so they definitely have a good chance. Someone that I was thinking of was Giants, because I think Giants has a really strong early game. Obviously, they rely a lot on Joko to do some crazy things to have a really good early game, but in reality, like, you never know what happens. Like, it's only 3 games left, and if Joko has some really good early lanes, if there are 2 solo laners step up, like, if Joko Ruin just go on a rampage, then for sure Giants could make it as well.
God, so close.
Man.
Everyone's in 6th place. This is a nightmare. All right, luckily I don't have to decide because it's not my playoff prediction, and I've already ruined like 3 of these. But Broxah, 6th place. I feel like an episode of The Bachelorette. Who will you choose to be your 6th place team here in the playoff prediction? Who gets the last slot?
I think right now Unicorns is a little bit better than H2K, but Unicorns has a much tougher schedule, and therefore I'll put H2K there.
All right,
there it
is. H2K locked in. We're going to get it updated. You'll see it one last time. And it's good that you bring up Unicorns of Love, strength of schedule. Because you're right, it's a difficult road. Part of the difficult road is you and all of Fnatic. Coming up tomorrow, our match of the week does pit Fnatic and Unicorns of Love. Unicorns of Love hunting for the playoff spot, looking to prove us wrong, looking to get 6th place over H2K. But this feels like it might be a bit of an uphill battle after today's games.
Yes, I think Fnatic are bigger favorites than they were coming into the week.
Definitely the case.
I thought it was a feature suddenly playing. So I heard music, I was like, music. Stop talking.
You get some reckless tattoo action.
I was waiting for Kevin in my ear yell, stop talking. What happened though?
All right, well, you all on 6 wins. We talked about the race with H2K. We talked about the difficult schedule. Coming into the week, everyone, I think, was looking at Unicorns of Love to be this team on the rise. Now, after losing today, do we expect Unicorns of Love to keep at least some of that momentum and for this game to be, you know, a competitive matchup? Or is this going to be a bit of a one-sider?
I don't really believe in much momentum there.
Well, I feel like Unicorns is a team that doesn't get shaken by losing one game.
I agree.
You know, they'll still play the same game. So I think it won't matter for them.
Yeah, momentum, I don't think will matter at all here. It's just based on like how good are they actually playing. And because they're against these really good teams, I can see them get one win, but then probably lose 2 others, and then that's just not enough.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you're going to hate the fact you win 1 and 8 in the starter split when you were actually playing fairly well.
Yeah. So I want to look at the specifics of the matchup now because we've seen Cold and Exile both. I mean, Exile, you talk about the 0-10, 10-0, and I think that's fair to point out. But Cold has been getting progressively better, it feels like. So what are your thoughts, Broxah, on this matchup between you and Cold? What are you kind of expecting to see?
I think this one is going to come down a lot to the mid-jungle 2v2, to be honest. I think both mid laners tend to play really aggressive and do a lot of crazy things. And at the same time, Cold is their captain. Like, if we somehow shut him down, then I think their communication will get a lot worse. And yeah, I mean, Caps Exile matchup is pretty insane. Like, these 2 guys just want to go ham and kill people. And yeah, I mean, if we can somehow shut Exile down, if we can push into the jungle and pressure Cold a bit, then I think it's going to be really rough for them to do much.
One of the big things for Fnatic is I feel like Exile is just kind of a discount version of Caps. Because when both of them are playing on the edge, Caps just succeeds way more with the aggressive plays. And I feel like he's mechanically a step above, and I feel like his game knowledge has now also kind of hit that point where after now over a year of playing, so while they're both trying to play the same way, I 100% agree with that one. I just think Caps is better in basically every part of the game.
Except we've also seen Caps be vulnerable. So I think it's good that you point out that the 2v2 is important because we've seen that like the prevailing strategy that we saw in spring, which was camp Caps to shut Fnatic down. We did see Vitality use that to some pretty decent effect. And so I'm wondering, you talk about this, like, how
he's clearly ready for it.
You're clearly ready for it, which I respect. Good analysis on your part that after Caps died 3 times in the mid lane that you should probably protect him. I like that. Good strategy. But I mean, is this something that, because I feel like Unicorns of Love are perfectly set up for this in the sense that Cold lives mid lane the vast majority of the games, at least when Exile's not playing Azir. So it does feel like Unicorns of Love are set up for success in terms of that 2v2 mid jungle, even if Caps maybe have the edge in individual players.
For me, Cold is trying so hard to protect Exile late in the games. He's just there all the time. And he gets punished for it as well, though. Sometimes he gets caught as well. So, yeah, we'll see how well they play together and how well they play around Vision. But that's going to be the key for Unicorns if they can survive, basically, versus Broxah.
This is really interesting thing. And maybe, Broxah, you can help me here. But the camp Cap strategy only works for 1 week, normally. And then it doesn't work for a few weeks in a row because then Fnatic are like, oh, we should, you know, help Caps in the early game. Or Caps like, maybe I shouldn't be so aggressive if the enemy jungler could be nearby.
Yeah, okay, so we have Broxah here.
Because then after a few weeks, it happens again.
Is this a thing where you guys go into scrims and like look back on a VOD review and go, got it, protect Caps, and then you forget about it? Or is it just like there's some weeks where Caps is maybe playing a little bit too aggressive for his own good and it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't when he's not?
Well, who knows, man?
You can't share that.
That's fair.
Maybe it's even just a mind game. Like, before the game against Vitality, we were like, all right, they have a sack, guys. Maybe Caps just go ham. Like, this guy's going to gank you. It's going to be fine. We're going to steal Baron. We're going to steal Elder Drake. And then, you know, coming into next week, all the teams we're playing against like, oh, damn, this guy Caps, he's dying all the time. We want to do that too. That's going to be the way to win the game.
I mean, everyone else playing League of Legends, you're playing
That's why they're number one.
These mind
and that's why it's not going to work for Unicorn.
Caps isn't overextending. He's playing a brilliant mind game. Ah, man.
Only works for 1 week and then a few weeks where it will not work.
Exactly. We're
and
just
then they allow it again. Use him as bait. They just put him on the front and be like, come kill this guy.
That's what happened at the level 1. It worked. Okay, all right. Fnatic versus UOL is our 4th game tomorrow, but there's plenty of other important matchups coming up before that. And as we take a look at the schedule, Misfits Gaming versus Giants, 2 competitors in the race for the playoffs. These guys are both looking to bounce back after losing today. And if Broxah's playoff predictions are going to come true, Misfits do need to continue winning games. If they drop, they could be right in the middle of that. I guess it would be a 5th place pack at that point.
I think if they lose wins tomorrow, they join the massive group of, you know, sixth place ties. It would be a fifth-way tie almost. It would actually be quite insane if Misfits end up losing there. We'll be favorites, but we've said that before. Aside
from Unicorns Love versus Fnatic, what matchups do you guys have your eyes on? Splice versus Is H2K going to be a Splice? G2 Schalke, we talked about Schalke stepping up. Is there anything that really stands out to you guys?
For me, Splice and H2K is going to be interesting because I've seen what I saw in Splice in H2K in the earliest stages of the LCS. I want to see how they match up. Splice is favorites, obviously, but H2K might, you know, if both teams go late game, it's going to be amazing because you will have 2 hyper carries.
Oh, I'm down. So who do you predict to come out on top?
Splice.
Oh God! The
loyalty
just gets thrown out immediately.
I feel it's just like Splice is a better version of H2K so far.
All right, let's just do predictions across the board. Splice H2K.
Splice.
You predicted H2K and they beat G2. Everyone sells out so quickly.
Listen, that's why I said G2 will end under Splice because H2K will beat G2 but lose to Splice.
Got it.
It all makes sense in my big prediction game.
Broxah. I'm putting a little bit of peer pressuring you right now. Splice or H2K? Who's it going to be?
I'm going Splice. I hope it's going to be H2K, but I'm going Splice.
I've never been good at peer pressure.
G2 Schalke. That one, I'm tempted to go Schalke.
Wow.
Just based on what happened last time, G2 failed to execute an early game comp, and they just completely revamped how they wanted to play the game. And it was so bad for them. I wonder how this team is going to react to this loss here, because I mean, there were already some tweets flying out right after about being like, well, no, what would have happened? How did we lose a 12K goal lead or something? Like, it's rough for G2 at the moment. The last few weeks has not been great for them. And I could see them continue downwards in terms of, you know, mindset, but also in terms of figuring out how they actually want to play in this current meta. Do you want to play early game? Do you want to play late game? What do you want?
All right, well, we're going to find out tomorrow. For now, at 12 a.m. Central European Summer Time and 3 p.m. Pacific Time, NA LCS Academy is starting over in Los Angeles. Opta Gaming versus Cloud9 is the first matchup there. And in case you didn't catch all the action from the EU LCS tonight, you can check them out in our rebroadcast right after NA LCS Academy. For now, though, it's time for us to call tonight. So, of course, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Thank you, Broxah. Congrats again on the win. We're going to be back tomorrow for more fights in the race for playoffs. We'll see you guys then.
The towers enlisted to help the Unicorns of Love, and that shield will not be broken, and it will be taken down. Vitality get themselves 2 kills. Not done yet. Woo! Too many minions to deal with. Mini Troopax gets jumped on with the Cataclysm, and despite a lot of damage on the Cabochon, it's White Knight that goes down. Vitality, stop the magic! They've lost the top lane on the side of Giants, but now all of a sudden there's a reply. 2 for 1. Upset, flashes over the wall. He's not done yet. Chasing Giants after the double kill secured. Steelback's running low, and the Janitor can't clean up this mess. Close this fight out. There's the Hemo plate coming down. Upset with the Black Shield. It's going to get popped. He's already shut down Ricard. He's going to die in the process, though. Now it's on Steelback. Steelback is killed by Nuke. Nexus is the focus. The Glacial Fissure to stop any siege. And Schalke take down Giants. Round Warp comes out from Niski. A teleport from Odo. He gets interrupted. Shut down onto Xerxes. That was a great interrupt. It's already started. Here comes Senkax. Justice Punch on the front line. Niski gets the first kill of the fight, and Kobe's currently untouched. Senkax running for his life, and so is Maxlaw. There's no doubt about it. The Nexus is getting destroyed. Misfits are wrecked.
There's really nowhere for Smitty J to go at this point. The Banner of Command Minion just comes in to help out. G2 get their 9th kill of the game.
It's fine.
They get the shutdown, and look at Sheriff. He's still alive on the backline. Sheriff is doing absolute work. He's gunning down some outlaws. There's 2. They're looking for more. H2K and turn this one around.
Really? I can't believe it. Going for Perks.
Sheriff got caught on the backline, but Perks has been caught up with Diddy Eaton. There, the kills just raining through. Hence, all odds. H2K take down G2 and keep their playoff hopes alive.
This could have been a Galio ulti situation.
Just going with the cleanse away from the Soul Shackles. Here comes the ace in the hole. The ignite, the first blood. Reckless secures it. Hiku's getting caught out as well by Broxah. Featherstorm, but he's locked in place. The bindings connect. It's a double for Reckless. It's a killing spree for Cavs. Rocket just have no way to go. Back to the fountain, they say. A double for Cavs. Fnatic lock it down 10-0 as they secure their spot at the top of the EU LCS.